It's become something of a meme these days that if you grew up Catholic and you are a creative person, you are going to be unable to fulfill your creative passions and unleash your true potential unless you shed all of your Catholic baggage. You get rid of that Catholicism, you get rid of all that pent up neurotic frustration, you get rid of the constant yes manning to authority, and suddenly you're going to be so funny, you're going to be so cool, everybody's going to like you, you're going to be unleashing who you really are and shedding all of the bad, false, flawed notions of humanity and God that are holding you back. And when we go through the pantheon of famous celebrities who were raised Catholic, now I'm not going to speculate on how they were raised. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. That's unfair to them. They're human beings, first and foremost. And everybody that's human is going to have a different path, a different life history that led them to where they are today. So, whatever their grievance is with the church, however they are a lapsed Catholic, is their business. The common denominator across the board is Catholic school. Catholic school, being steeped in the faith, being taught that this is what we believe, love it or leave it, led these people in some way to see the church as their enemy in becoming a success in their field. Whether that was because they were full of vigor for the faith and they went into the seminary with high hopes and discovered that there were things in the seminary life that were hypocritical or the leadership was not there. And so the young men opted out or did something to get themselves kicked out, which is basically the same thing, really, when you think about it, in most cases, and went into the entertainment industry. Okay, that's one example. Whether or not it is simply wanting to do as you please because you are a really intense, bright person and you think that the rules you're being taught are foolish and silly, and every time you ask a question about them to make them less silly for yourself, you get really bad answers, or you get no answer, or you get told to shut your mouth and just kneel and pray and stop asking difficult questions. Another example, whether it's because you have some kind of personal issue that the church says is not good to indulge in, and you see that issue as part and parcel with your identity as a human being, and so the church becomes an enemy of you, and then you start hearing other voices that are telling you to abandon the church because it has a problem with you. That's another example, another reason why you may leave and go off to become an entertainer in LA. Regardless of whatever the reason is, Catholic school did something to people that had a lot of creative gifts and insights into the ironies of life and told them to stop. Stop it. Behave yourself. Be more docile. Be more subservient. Be more humble. Be more quiet. Humble, docile, subservient, quiet. You have to get along with people. You have to be quiet. You have to be subservient. You do, really. We don't like hearing that in our culture today, but you have to eventually relinquish your authority to something other than yourself, because you can't do as you please without damaging someone else. So you do have to be subservient in this life to a degree, a healthy degree. Be humble. Be dutiful. Be docile. Let it go. Okay? These are virtues. If you're a creative person and you're young, you may make the decision to bundle all those virtues up into a big wad of stuff that holds you back. In your mind, you see those things as holding you back. You are gifted with this abundant creativity, and if I'm being told to keep my mouth shut, that's a problem right there. And I'm going to start trying to find ways to not obey And I'm going to start finding ways to not take orders from anybody except me. Entertainers that are really good generally have decent awareness of their surroundings and other people. They generally are, in fact, if they're not incredibly gifted IQ-wise, they are very intuitive into the emotions and the personalities of others. Sometimes creative people will provoke those personalities. What entertainers sometimes fail to realize if they are in such a hurry to throw the church into the dumpster is that they've associated the authority of a school system with the authority of God operating through the church. That's the kind of mindset that's operative in a lot of young Catholic people. What they fail to understand is that not only have they rolled authority, civil authority, secular authority, parental authority up with the church, they have also made it seem like, in their minds, the church is the enemy of creativity. Because what do you do in the church? You sit still and you listen, if you can, to the same stuff, pretty much, repeated a lot, and you do the same sets of prayers, and that is not creative. It is not personal. It's not personal. It's not supposed to be personal. It was never intended to be personal. This is not a conversation with your priest. This is Mass. This is something that we could never even possibly understand the significance of in this lifetime. And if we did fully understand it and we could survive the mental explosion that would occur if we did, we would never want to leave the church and we would starve to death. I'm serious. That's how important this is. It's important because of the way it organizes your inner life. And it's also extremely important for creative people because it actually defines explicitly what is good and what is false. So the church is really the source. It should be the wellspring of comedy. In fact, Christianity is comedic. And if you watched my video on the mikveh, you understand that there is really an edgy kind of comedy to Christianity in terms of what it believes and espouses. It is the ultimate troll of Judaism, and it is the ultimate troll for so many other faiths, really. If you want to use that kind of parlance to explain what it is, because this is trolling. God becoming man is trolling, but it's real. That's the insane thing. So it's not even trolling in the sense of doing something false or saying something false to get an insider reaction. It's saying the truth, and it's the people that want to interpret that truth as false because it's too much for them to take, well, then persisting in that truth anyway to the point that you get crucified for it. It's like really meta trolling. And it is the source and summit of all comedy. It is the source and summit of all comedy. It is the source and summit of all entertainment, really. Entertainment is ritual. Storytelling is ritualistic. What we do at Mass, where we have liturgy of the Word, liturgy of the Eucharist, you have this order of Mass, these steps you follow along to reach the summit, so that when you take in the body of Christ, you are then experiencing a little share in a resurrected state, and then you leave the church building in a semi-resurrected state. That is the goal. Storytelling, okay? You have certain building blocks that tie in with the human psyche in terms of how we take in information about someone's life from birth to death. And you're creating this little episode in the lives of a group of fictional people that is reflective of your life such that you can understand someone else's scenario or a fantasy scenario, and it means something to you because you feel a connection between your memories and the events in the story. That's what's happening at Mass in part. Entertainment also has to rely on circular repetition. Okay? Somebody juggles in front of you. There is a process to that. Left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. Okay? under the leg. There's a pattern and a process, and the juggler has to know what that pattern and process is, and then leverage that to create a moment where you witness things moving with such fluidity and such grace that it's almost like the balls are in motion by themselves, or whatever the juggler is using. That's one kind of entertainment. There's many other kinds of entertainment. But a lot of them in our culture today have to do with story, or they have to do with exposing truths, which is the entire project of comedy. So when entertainers get really bent out of shape about the church, they don't really understand that the church is what has provided them with the insight they need to make value judgments about the culture in which they live that set them apart from the culture, create themselves into a kind of alienated observer of it, an outsider, and then express those observations back into the culture and cause this incitement of reaction and vitriol or joy, and all these emotions come out of the audience. That's what comedy does, is it exposes truths, and those truths can be ugly, they can be beautiful, but there is always a layer of irony to say, look at this thing, this is crazy, why is this done, why is nobody talking about this, hello, or this is a thing that really gives me pain, and I want to break that thing down into a kind of storytelling format so that I can process it, and if I share it with you, maybe you'll also relate to it and you can process it, and then we get rid of the grief and we get rid of our pain for a bit, and we have a kind of a therapeutic moment. And sometimes that has to take the form of very blunt, harsh language so that you can have that cathartic response where you're just getting the venom out of your system. If Penn Jillette is doing magic, but he's doing it in a way that's very clinical and has a heavy amount of science to it, and he wants to unmask the mystique of magic. That is exactly what happens in the Acts of the Apostles. When one of the apostles has to unmask a fraud who's claiming to be a magician, Simon the magician, who can bring people back to life or heal them of their infirmities. The ideological backbone of Penn Jillette's actual magic is expressed in Acts of the Apostles as part of something that Christians are called to do, which is to unmask fraud. Unmasking magical thinking is, in fact, something we are commanded to do as followers of Christ. So I'm just going to put those two things next to each other, and I'll allow you to make your own determination as to whether or not you think that I should have done that. Okay. That's just one example of an entertainer just not understanding what Christianity is calling him to do. Christianity is not calling us to be dummies. It is, in fact, the richest source of story, comedy, entertainment that could ever be. That's my talk today. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please hammer this out to as many people as you can. Thank you for tuning in. God bless. Have a great day.